The Wyoming plains stretched endlessly beneath a cold, gray sky. Winter had come early, sweeping across the land with biting winds and hard frost that clung to every blade of grass. Somewhere between the small mining town of Sweetwater and the next patch of civilization, a single campfire burned low against the dark horizon. Luke Danner sat beside it, his hat pulled low, his coat patched at the elbows, and his boots so worn the leather looked almost gray. His horse, Dusty, stood tethered nearby, steam curling from its nostrils as it chewed on a sparse bundle of grass. Luke wasn't running from anything. Not exactly, but he wasn't chasing much either. He'd left behind the last ranch he worked at when the owner sold out to a big timber company and let every hand go before Christmas. He was a man with no family, no home, and just enough money in his pocket to keep coffee in the pot and tobacco in his pouch. As he stared into the flickering flame. He heard something strange, a sound that didn't belong in the empty plains. It was faint at first, but it grew clearer. The creak of wagon wheels, the snap of reins, and the uneven clatter of a horse that sounded half dead from exhaustion. Luke rose slowly, brushing frost from his hat brim. Now who in blazes would be traveling this late? The wagon appeared over the rise, one lantern swinging from its side. It listed slightly to one side, the left wheel wobbling dangerously. A woman sat at the reins, her shawl pulled tight around her shoulders. Next to her was a little girl, maybe 6 years old, clutching a rag doll and shivering. Luke waved them down. "Evening, ma'am. You're far from any trail worth following. You all right?" The woman reined in the horse with effort. Her voice trembled. We lost our way. The wheel's about to give and my daughter's freezing. Please, do you know where the nearest town is?" Luke's eyes softened. "Mill Creek's 10 miles east, but you won't make it tonight. Bring your wagon over by the fire. You and the little one can warm up." The woman hesitated, looking from the stranger to her child. But the wind howled again, and the little girl whimpered, burying her face in her mother's coat. That settled it. Within minutes, Luke had their wagon pulled near the fire. He took a blanket from his saddle roll, wrapping it gently around the child. "My name's Luke Danner," he said quietly. "You're safe here, ma'am." The woman's lips trembled as she nodded. "Thank you. I'm Eleanor, and this is my daughter, Lily." Lily peered at him from under the blanket. "You're a cowboy?" Luke chuckled, his voice warm. "Used to be. These days, I reckon I'm just a man trying to get by." He offered them some jerky, poured coffee into a tin cup, and gave what warmth he could. Eleanor's gloved hands trembled as she sipped the bitter brew, but there was grace in the way she held herself, something refined. Almost regal. Luke had seen all kinds of folks out west, drifters, gamblers, outlaws, and dreamers. But there was something about Eleanor, something that didn't fit the dust and danger of the frontier. When the fire died down, Luke built it up again. He gave her his coat, despite her protests, and kept his distance out of respect. Where were you headed? He asked quietly. Mill Creek, she replied. My husband passed last spring. I was trying to reach a family friend before the snow made the roads impassable. Luke nodded solemnly. I'm sorry to hear that. She looked at him for a moment, his kind eyes, the lines of wear on his face. You've been alone a long time, haven't you? He smiled faintly. Long enough to stop counting. They sat in silence after that, the kind that felt less lonely than the wind. By morning, frost coated the wagon canvas, and Lily was still asleep by the embers. Luke was already up, boiling coffee and checking the wagon's busted wheel. You're lucky, he said as Eleanor approached. It's cracked, not broken clean. I can patch it enough to get you to town. Asterisk, you do that for us? She asked softly. Asterisk, Luke shrugged. Wouldn't be much of a man if I didn't. Asterisk, he spent the next hour working, his breath fogging in the cold air. Eleanor helped where she could, holding tools, steadying the wheel. There was something steadying about her presence, quiet strength beneath the sadness. Asterisk, when the wagon was ready, she looked at him with gratitude shining in her eyes. I can't repay you for this. Asterisk, he smiled. Just promise to get that little girl somewhere warm. Asterisk, please, she said suddenly, ride with us. I insist, at least until Mill Creek. Asterisk, he hesitated. You don't even know me. I know enough, she said simply. So he rode alongside her wagon, the trail stretching before them under a pale winter sun. Asterisk, Mill Creek appeared by midday, its small main street lined with snow-dusted rooftops. But the moment they entered town, Luke noticed something strange, people stopping what they were doing to stare. A few men even tipped their hats. Asterisk, Luke leaned closer to Eleanor. Seems they know you. Asterisk, her expression turned distant. Yes, my husband, Thomas Whitmore, owned the mills up north. We lived outside of town. Asterisk, Luke blinked. Whitmore? As in Whitmore lumber? Asterisk, she nodded. He left it all to me and Lily. Asterisk, Luke exhaled, shaking his head. Well, I'll be damned. I shared my fire with the richest widow in the territory. Asterisk, she smiled faintly. Last night, I was just a woman with a broken wheel. Asterisk, he laughed softly. Guess money can't buy a warm fire or good company. Asterisk, Eleanor insisted on buying him lunch at the Mill Creek Inn. Luke tried to decline, but his stomach had other ideas. As they sat by the window, the smell of hot bread and coffee filled the air. Asterisk, Lily chatted between bites, her energy restored. Mama says we can stay at the ranch now. You should come visit Mr. Luke. Asterisk, Luke smiled. That's so? Asterisk, Eleanor glanced at her daughter, amused. She's not wrong. The ranch is too big for just the two of us. I could use some help keeping it running. Asterisk, he studied her. You're offering me a job? Asterisk, I'm offering you a place, she said gently. For as long as you want it? Asterisk, Luke hesitated. Ma'am, I'm not much on fancy living. Asterisk, Eleanor smiled. Then it's perfect. It's not fancy anymore, just home. Asterisk, the Whitmore Ranch was sprawling, tucked between pine hills and open fields. Once it had been a grand estate with hired men and polished fences. Now, most of the workers were gone, the barns in disrepair, and the place carried a quiet loneliness that hung in the air. Asterisk, Luke rolled up his sleeves and went to work the moment he arrived. Fixing fences, clearing brush, tending the horses, it all came naturally to him. By the second week, the place already looked more alive. Asterisk, Eleanor often coffee at dawn. Her shawl pulled tight, her hair loose from the wind. Asterisk, you work harder than anyone I've ever seen. She said one morning. Asterisk, work simple, he replied. People ain't. She laughed softly, and he couldn't help smiling. Little by little, something unspoken grew between them, a trust, a warmth. Luke found himself looking forward to her voice, her footsteps on the porch, the way she smiled when Lily ran to greet him. But not everyone in Mill Creek was pleased. One afternoon, while Luke was in town picking up supplies, he overheard two men whispering by the feed store. Asterisk, can you believe it? That poor drifter's living at the Whitmore place. Asterisk, widow's lost her mind. Her husband's company ain't even cold in the ground. Asterisk, she ran herself over that cowboy. Asterisk, Luke's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He was used to talk. Words couldn't change who he was or who she was. Asterisk, when he got back, Eleanor noticed his silence. Something wrong? Asterisk, he shook his head. Just folks talking? Asterisk, I know what they say, she admitted softly. But I stopped caring a long time ago. Asterisk, he met her eyes. You shouldn't have to fight the world alone. Asterisk, then don't let me, she whispered. Asterisk, asterisk, winter thawed into spring. The ranch thrived again. The horses were healthy, the fences strong, and laughter echoed through the house once more. Asterisk, one evening. After supper, Luke was sitting on the porch when Eleanor joined him. The air smelled of lilacs and dust. Asterisk, do you ever miss the road? She asked. Asterisk, he smiled faintly. Sometimes. But then I remember the nights like that one, the cold, the emptiness, and I figure I'm better off here. Asterisk, she turned toward him. Luke, when you shared your fire that night, I thought it was just a kindness. But it saved us. And in a way, it saved me. Asterisk, he met her gaze, his heart pounding. You don't owe me nothing, Eleanor. Asterisk, I know, she said softly. But I'd still like to give you something. Asterisk, before he could speak, she leaned in and kissed him a soft, trembling kiss that tasted of coffee and spring rain. Asterisk, when she pulled back, she whispered, that night, I found warmth by your fire. Now I found it again here. Asterisk, he smiled, voice low. And I reckon I found home. Asterisk, asterisk, they were married that summer under the big oak near the pasture. Only a handful of townsfolk came, those who truly cared. Even the gossips stayed quiet when they saw how happy she looked, and how gently he held her hand. Asterisk, Luke Danner, the poor cowboy who once gave away his coat to a stranger, now stood beside the richest woman in the territory, not because of money, but because of love built on kindness and faith. Asterisk, as the sun dipped below the hills, Eleanor looked at him and said, do you remember that night by the fire? Asterisk, Luke smiled. Every time the wind blows. Asterisk, Lily ran between them, laughing, chasing fireflies. Eleanor rested her head against his shoulder, and together they watched the flames of their wedding fire dance beneath the starlit sky. Asterisk, funny, Luke said quietly. I thought I was helping a stranger that night. Asterisk, Eleanor smiled. And all along you were finding your forever.